The CEO is a very unique animal. I'm Alex Gertzberg, and this is CEO Confidential, where we learn about this rare breed, one heartbreak, one victory, one story at a time. This show is sponsored by the law firm of Gertzberg Licata, your ally for business growth. Folks, our guest today is an expert in tenant representation in commercial real estate and corporate services. He also has his own real estate portfolio. He's been in the business for over 25 years. That's commercial real estate, with working with clients regionally and nationally and globally. Michael Cantor, folks, he's the managing director of Allegro Real Estate Brokers and Advisors, and he's helped Allegro and his own portfolio in multiple capacities. He's helped them increase their value, their revenues, and he's received numerous awards for performance and excellence. Folks, without further ado, I give you Michael Cantor. Michael, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So Michael, here, listen, without further ado, tell us about the time when you realized that your cultural fit with your early founding partners just wasn't there.
Sure. To do that, Alex, first, I think I'll just give you a little bit of background of how we founded Allegro 20 years ago. And really the progression and the relationship building with the other founding partners that took place through those years. Try to make it quick. But right out of college, I worked for the first exclusive tenant representation firm based in Ohio. There I met two of the other original founding partners of Allegro. I worked there for a couple of years, and my mentor, who wasn't the founding partner of Allegro, my mentor and I left to form one of the first corporate real estate outsourcing companies in the country, where I worked for a couple of years. One of the other founders moved over to that outsourcing firm for a brief stint, but those two gentlemen who I worked with at the first firm ended up moving to a third firm, which was one of the first salaried real estate brokerages in the country, one of the only salaried brokerages in the country, and they recruited me to join them over there. Oddly enough, the replacement for me at the outsourcing firm was a guy who came up through the ranks and became another one of the founding partners, and the fifth of the original five founding partners was hired at the salaried brokerage firm, where all five of us ended up working together until Deloitte bought that company. So when Deloitte bought that company, we spent, depending which one of us you speak with, 3 to 4 years working in the real estate consulting practice of a global, then Big Five accounting firm. And this is in 98, 99 when we started there. We all left between 2001 and 2. What happened in that time period is we went through a major recession, as you may recall.
Sure.
The dot-com bust, 9/11 happened in that time frame. Enron and a number of other companies imploded, and Arthur Andersen, one of the Big Five accounting firms, collapsed as a result of their consulting relationships with Enron and other companies. So what we were being told as the Sarbanes-Oxley Act was being proposed by Congress was that if a client was an independent audit client of the now Big Four accounting firms, they couldn't provide other consulting services, meaning for us, real estate consulting services. So we were basically being told that a quarter of the publicly traded companies were going to become off limits to us. And we had really built our practice around publicly traded companies and as well as local tenant representation clients. So from July of 2001 through June of 2002, 5 of us left Deloitte and we formed Allegro with the goal of also creating a second company that would be able to invest in and develop real estate, as you had mentioned earlier. Our goal was for Allegro to be focused on office and industrial users primarily, and for our investment company to be focused on multifamily and retail, so that there wasn't a conflict of interest between our investments and our clients' real estate. So now we get to the point where we formed Allegro, and it was a snowy night in February where we all got together and we talked about what our hopes and dreams were as we were about to jump off the cliff of Deloitte and form this company. And quite frankly, if you would have interviewed any one of the five of us about what our strategy was and the tactics that we're going to implement to achieve that strategy, you would have said these five guys are completely on the same page. And for a number of years, things were going along swimmingly until we realized that in one really important respect, we weren't on the same page, and that was with regard to our cultural values. By 2007, it became apparent that three of us had formed a company where we wanted to be really people-centric. We wanted people to wake up in the morning and be excited to come to work collaboratively with their colleagues, to serve client interests first. And the other two just weren't on the same page with us. It's not that they weren't good guys, but they were more focused on activity and they were more focused on money above all else. We're professional services guys, so we're in an industry that's comprised of people, comprised of establishing trust, and is serving people. And so we're wanting to be really people first, client first, team-oriented, collaborative environment. And so it became apparent that the other two partners needed to make an exit from the firm. As the one attorney among my partners, I scoured over our operating agreement to determine different solutions to implement the divorce that needed to take place, whether the three of us who were on the same page needed to leave or we needed to do something else to get the other two guys to leave. You're a lawyer, so you know how these things can get kind of messy.
Sure.
But in our operating agreement, we had the ability to vote by the majority for a change in the governance structure. And what we did is we utilized those rights to elect a C-suite, naming one of the partners CEO, another one CFO, and I became the COO and general counsel for the firm. And the two guys who needed to move on didn't have the same roles and authority, with the idea that it was time to start talking about the separation. So as we went through the separation, one of the things that jumps out to me was our attorney came to us one time in the middle of negotiations and said that their attorney felt like we were really in an emotional divorce situation. And that wasn't the way we were approaching it at all. It was very much a business-driven decision-making process. Our client said, this is a business transaction to my clients. And so we worked through that.
So Michael, how long does the divorce take from beginning to end?
I would say from the time that we elected officers until we finalized the separation agreement was probably about 9 months, nine
Wow.
Very uncomfortable months. For five people who, had worked together for many years, again, one of the two guys I worked with since the beginning of my career, the other one was sort of my protege in some respects, but we had to put the writing on the wall that this isn't working culturally, and we're going to have to make some changes. And we had to live together through this, long drawn out separation process.
Right. And so it's 9 months from when the vote, the majority vote happens to when you finalize the divorce, right? People go their separate ways, right?
That's correct.
And how long before that is it that cultural discomfort where you guys are starting to see that you're not on the same page, your values are different? How long pre-vote does that period last?
Yeah, that period really was an evolution. So it probably started slowly and built up into something where three of us realized the other two weren't on the same page with us. So that could have, quite frankly, taken a couple of years to fully recognize that we weren't on the same page. But one of the things that we saw was that our employees who were reporting to the other two guys that was the only place in the firm where we were experiencing turnover, both voluntary and involuntary turnover. And so that's when we realized that the valuing of people, of our team members, of trying to grow people into becoming great professionals in our industry, the best and brightest, wasn't being valued the same way by two of the partners as it was by the other three of us.
Well, and I assume that does your friendship take a hit? I assume the five of you go in as close friends, right? You guys decide you want to do business together, spend all your time together professionally. What happens to the friendship?
Well, I can say that from the beginning, the two partners who stayed with me, I would view as being, we have a level of trust where they're like brothers to me. The other two guys, we had enough trust that we decided to go into business together. But it was apparent to me on the front end that winter meeting in February that I really wasn't willing to make the leap into Allegro without my two partners who stayed with me over the long course. I wasn't fully comfortable being in a partnership with the other two guys without my two guys with me. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. And I've got one more sort of like factual question, and then I want to sort of deconstruct this a little bit. The day-to-day tension, the day-to-day, if I'm an employee or a client, right, of Allegro at this time, was it called Allegro back then?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I want to understand what I'm experiencing if I'm not one of you five as a result of the tension and the disconnect between the five of you.
I think that we all did our very best to try to certainly insulate our clients, but also insulate our team members from the tension that was building. But I do know from feedback that I've received from our employees at the time that they felt like there were all of a sudden a lot of closed door meetings that were taking place that really hadn't been common in what was a really open, collaborative work environment. So it became apparent after the fact that our employees kind of knew there was something going on. There was writing on the wall that things weren't going as well as they should be in the partnership group. I would say for the most part, our clients were insulated from it.
Okay. Well, that's good. How do things change after the divorce?
Well, after the divorce, we were able to keep all of our primary clients from Allegro. We were able to keep our entire team other than the two guys who moved on. So in some ways, we wanted to keep things moving along as smoothly as possible. And we're really, once it was all wrapped up, we were open and honest with our team about what had gone on and the separation that needed to take place. But I would say that after that separation took place, we had our turnover went almost to nil, both in terms of voluntary and involuntary turnover. The team was working as a team is supposed to work, and that went fairly well up until the next recession. But, things get a little topsy-turvy during recessions, but
right.
They went pretty smoothly.
And when you look back on 20 years since you started it, 25 years, 20 years.
20 years, just a couple Fridays ago.
So when you look back on the last 20 years and in particular the period of time after the divorce, I'm curious what the enduring changes were after the divorce. In other words, for example, have you taken on any more partners since then?
We have taken on a few more partners since then. One of the other founders who stayed with us for the long run retired about 2 years ago, and In the meantime, we brought on junior partners. One of my partners, who serves as the integrator of our company, has been with us since 2004. He lived through the full development of the company. He experienced the divorce from the employee standpoint, and we made him a partner in 2010. We've added a couple more partners just a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Gosh, so EOS wasn't around 20 years ago. At least I don't think it was, but I can only imagine that the core values and the core purpose section of that VTO, we do EOS here too. I mean, that would have been a really nice alignment tool, right, back then with your partners.
Yeah, one of the things we did in our first partner retreat after the divorce was to delineate what our core principles were. And so again, and I've spoken to them, but the one mantra that always sticks in my head from that original set of core principles was clients first, team second, self third. And again, it's about people. We're in a business to keep our clients satisfied, to exceed their expectations. And then the only way to be successful in a professional services business in that respect is to have people growing with you, people who enjoy coming to work with you and who are developing into senior trusted advisors for our clients. And so that was the core principle we had in place. I'd say before EOS, we went through the Rockefeller habits. We did the 4 disciplines of execution, did some of the exercises to try to develop what we ultimately were successful in implementing with the EOS system.
And so you've taken on new partners since then. How did you know that they aligned with your core values?
I think that we just had a keener sense of trying to understand how people were treating other people. I think it's the first lesson I have from the first set of partners that I think we've learned from is that you need to have a deep sense of trust in your partners, and you don't admit somebody into that special family or that special club until you know that they're there to last. Yeah.
And I really want to drill down on that piece because I think it's really important. So, well, let's get practical. Let's get specific, Michael. How do you talk to your people about core values? How do you implement them? And I'll be honest, I'm partly asking for selfish reasons. This is a constant discussion here. And it's funny because we took a poll, we have an all hands meeting every Tuesday. And on a bet, we gave everybody a pen and paper and said, write down our 4 core values. Right. And I am sad to say, as much as we talk about it, not everybody even knew what they are. So for partly for selfish reasons, but partly for the benefit, I'd like to say largely for the benefit of our audience. How do you talk about and implement and sow the core values into the fabric and the DNA of your company?
Well, first of all, I can tell you that I know what the 4 core values are. They are put clients first, do it right, be dependable, always improve. And in our quarterly meetings, I give the core value speech. If we were to place a bet, I'm sure that a lot of people wouldn't come up with all 4 of them. But what we do is we identify examples of people who are achieving those core values. Concrete examples of here's somebody putting the client first. Here's somebody being dependable to their clients and also to their teammates. Here was examples of people exemplifying and living those core values.
How about in between meetings? Anything that you guys do to reinforce them?
One of the things that we do that's really important is we actually evaluate our people based on the core values. So our people get feedback about, from the managers and principals. Here's where you're achieving each of the core values. Here's where you might be falling short, and here's what you need to do to get there. We have monthly counseling meetings. Each associate is assigned a manager as their counselor. Each manager has a principal as their counselor, and they have monthly meetings, which provide the opportunity to hone in on those core values and the opportunity on a timely basis to give feedback on how you're exemplifying them or where you need to catch up.
Yeah. Okay. So Michael, it's do-over time, right? It's 20 years ago. You're leaving Deloitte, and you're starting your own firm, and you've got, in that moment, at least, the idea, hey, these are the 5 guys that we are going to share equity and share decision-making and share profits. And,
Right.
and these are going to be my partners. But before pulling that trigger, right, you get to pause. What do you get, knowing what you know now about how that all played out, what do you do differently?
It's kind of crazy for me to tell you this, but I'm not sure I would do it differently. It might have been a stage in the development of our company that we needed to evolve through.
Yeah.
As I was touching on earlier, if you were to look at the way that we developed our business strategy, the way we differentiated ourselves from other companies in the industry, it was really hyper-focused on eliminating conflicts of interest between our clients and each other, between service provider and client, between team members within the firm. We established a company that was an exclusive tenant rep company focused on occupiers so that we wouldn't end up on both sides of the table in any transaction. We created a salaried business model so that people were focused on client objectives before they focus on, how do I bring home a commission to myself personally. It eliminated the competition that a lot of our competitors have internally, so that our people are working collaboratively. They're lifting each other up and bringing people in when they need their expertise on any particular issue that comes up. And like I said, that's allowed us to attract the best and brightest in the industry. We have an unusually large number of people that have master's degree and higher levels of education. And in our national and international work, we have been pursued by the global firms and the national networks. And we've turned them down because we believe it's in our clients' best interest for us to remain independent and to be able to select partners in other states and other countries who are the right fit for each project. So when you go back to the 5 of us, we were all on the same page, in a very rational sense, black and white sense of what the strategy was, what the differentiators were going to be, and how we were going to achieve our strategy. We were really very much on the same page. What I missed was the soft side, was the emotional undertones of the business relationship. And so like you asked me before, when we bring in new partners, I think we're a little more hyper-focused on, is this somebody who I have inherent trust with? Right. Is this somebody who embodies the culture of the firm and, has some of those soft skills that are necessary to having a healthy partnership.
Yeah. Well, and that's my biggest takeaway from this conversation is don't overlook those values, those cultural, softer, facets of the people. Have the conversations, right?
Right.
Well, and let's not forget, I mean, this is 20 years ago, right? You're just starting your own firm. You guys were operators at Deloitte as opposed to leaders, maybe within your own little group, but here you're.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think you're right. You have to go through the chiropractic cracking of comfort, to get here. But my takeaway is you really have to have those conversations. And it's interesting because, Lou, so my partner, Lou Licata and I were just talking only an hour ago about how it is super important periodically to take not the entire leadership, but your core, in this case, it's me and Lou, we're the two equity owners, but the people
Right.
who are really the core, maybe it's your equity group, but you take them off site and you have some really deep conversations about what you guys are about, and where you see your roles in the company going, where you see the company going, 5, 10, 20 years from now. And you just got to sync up on that stuff. It's easy
I fully agree.
yeah, it's easy for the day-to-day exigencies to take over. We got to make a move. Here's what the numbers, here's what the strategies say. And so it feels right. Let's go. But, yeah, those deeper conversations are critical. Michael,
Well, I think it
yeah.
applies to most. Go ahead, go ahead. I was just going to say, I think it applies to most businesses, but especially professional services firms like yours and mine, that culture is king, and the people are. It's all about the people, right? We're serving clients, we're serving people, and we're serving them with team members, and you really need to value the people, and so that's
Yeah.
the fact that corporate culture really matters a hell of a lot in a professional services environment is another thing that I learned from that experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, actually there's one other thought, that I think is worth talking about, in this context. And that is like how you communicate. And I think, I mean, this is definitely true, I think, in every relationship with your spouse, with your kids, with your friends, but it's particularly true in business. There has to be a safe space to be totally open and totally honest with your partners. And that's something that evolves. It doesn't happen on day one, but I think you could front load that. It's something, I mean, so we merged our firms here just this year. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's something that we talked about early on, but which has definitely, even in the last 6 months, evolved a lot. Being able to sit down and close the door and say, hey, we have to have a conversation that might be uncomfortable, but we have to get it all out, and we have to have this safety here to have it. That evolved for you and your partners for sure, right, Michael?
Yeah, I think the way that we're set up, it evolves all the way up and down through our organization. Our counseling meetings, on a monthly basis are intended to give people timely feedback, but certainly at the partner level, in part we're running EOS, so I'm the visionary, and I have my same page meetings with my integrator. So those have to be a safe place and open, honest communication. And the leadership L10 meetings, where we have to all put it out on the table,
right,
to make sure that we know where everybody's coming from and where we're all headed together.
Yeah, agreed. Michael, thank you. This was awesome. Your company it's tenant representation, it's corporate real estate management, real estate investment, consulting, advisory, facilities management. It almost doesn't see it. It seems like there isn't a whole lot that you don't do with commercial real estate. Any big things that you're working on now? Anything that you're looking for? Anything that you want out there, in terms of focus, priorities, emphasis, things happening right now?
We're in a weird environment in the COVID. We can't call it post-COVID anymore with the Delta variant, but we're in a weird environment where our clients are making new decisions about the way that they want to work, the way that they want their people to come back to the office, to what extent they want people to come back to the office. So a lot of our work right now is helping our clients navigate through this period of uncertainty and try to determine the right way to configure their office environment and maintain their corporate culture going into the future.
Yeah. And the kinds of properties that you work with, is it any kind of, it's offices, it's retail, it's shopping malls. I mean, give me an idea of what size, demographic, geography we're talking about that you guys sort of specialize in.
Sure. So about half of our work that we do is in the state of Ohio, because that's where we're based. We have offices in Cleveland and Columbus. The other half of our work is everywhere else, because we have clients with national and international businesses, and wherever they do work, we help them with their real estate. Our clients overwhelmingly are office and industrial space users. We do some retail work, but it's primarily office and industrial space. And then our second company, which is the parent company to 10 real estate investments, is primarily in the multifamily and retail environment, so it doesn't conflict with our office and industrial clients.
Great. Folks, you can find Michael. The company is Allegro, and they're at allegrorealty.com. That's 2 L's, Allegro. And Michael is on LinkedIn at Michael Cantor. He's on Twitter at Michael Cantor. Michael, I just can't thank you enough. This was a great conversation. I really appreciate you. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Thanks, folks. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to CEO Confidential. I hope you enjoyed it. Visit us at ceoconfidential.net and visit our sponsors, the business law firm of Gertzberg Licata and Cover My Six, a business solution that flushes out and repairs legal minefields before they blow up in court. We'll see you next time right here for another episode of CEO Confidential.